Bessie Smith was born on April 15, 1894 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. She was one of 7 children. Her father, a Baptist minister, died soon after her birth, leaving her mother to raise her and her siblings. Around 1906, her mother and 2 of her brothers died, and Smith and her remaining siblings were raised by her aunt. It was around this time that Smith began to perform as a street singer, accompanied on the guitar by one of her younger brothers. In 1912, Smith began performing as a dancer in the Moses Stokes minstrel show, and soon thereafter in the Rabbit Foot Minstrels, of which blues vocalist Ma Rainey was a member. Rainey took Smith under her wing, and over the next decade, Smith continued to perform at various theaters and on the vaudeville circuit. By the early 1920s, Smith had settled down and was living in Philadelphia, and in 1923 she met and married a man named Jack Gee. The same year, she was discovered by a representative from Columbia Records, with whom she signed a contract and made her first song recordings. Among them was a track entitled Downhearted Blues, which was wildly popular and sold an estimated 800,000 copies, propelling Smith into the blues spotlight. With her rich, powerful voice, Smith soon became a successful recording artist and toured extensively, going forward with an idea presented by her brother and business manager, Clarence. Smith eventually bought a custom railroad car for her traveling troupe to travel and sleep in. In her recording career, Bessie Smith worked with many important jazz performers, such as saxophonist Sidney Bechet and pianist Fletcher Henderson and James P. Johnson. With Johnson, she recorded one of her most famous songs, Backwater Blues. Smith also collaborated with the legendary jazz artist Louis Armstrong on several tunes, including Cold in Hand Blues and I Ain't Gonna Play No Second Fiddle. By the end of the 1920s, Smith was the highest paid black performer of her day and earned herself the title Empress of the Blues. However, at the height of her success, Bessie Smith's career began to flounder, due in part to the financial ravages of the Great Depression and a change in cultural mores. In 1929, she and Jack Gee permanently separated, and by the end of 1931, Smith had stopped working with Columbia altogether. However, the dedicated performer, Smith adapted her repertoire and continued to tour. In 1933, Smith was contacted by producer John Hammond to make new recordings, which hinted at the coming swing era. Over the next few years, Smith continued to perform. However, on September 26, 1937, Smith was en route to a show in Memphis, Tennessee, with her companion of many years, Richard Morgan. She was sideswiped a truck and lost control of her car. Smith was thrown from the vehicle and badly injured. She died of her wounds in Clarksdale, Mississippi hospital. She was 43 years old. American blues singer Ma Rainey was born Gertrude Pridgett on April 26, 1886, in Columbus, Georgia, to minstrel troopers Thomas Pridgett Sr. and Ella Agin Pridgett, the first popular stage entertainer to incorporate authentic blues in her song repertoire. Ma Rainey performed during the first 3 decades of the 20th century, known as the Mother of the Blues. She enjoys mass popularity during the blues craze of the 1920s. Described by African-American poet Sterling Brown in Black Culture and Black Consciousness as a person of the folk, Rainey recorded in various musical settings and exhibited the influence of genuine rural blues. She is widely recognized as the first great female blues vocalist. Rainey worked at the Springer Opera House in 1900, performing as a singer and dancer in the local talent show, A Bunch of Blackberries. On February 2, 1904, Pridgett married comedy songster William Pa Rainey, billed as Ma and Pa Rainey. The couple toured southern tent shows and cabarets. Though she did not hear the blues in Columbus, Rainey's extensive travels had, by 1905, brought her into contact with authentic country blues, which she worked into her song repertoire. Her ability to capture the mood and essence of black rural southern life of the 1920s, noted Daphne Harrison in Black Pearls, blues queens, quickly endeared her to throngs of followers throughout the South. While performing with the Moses Stokes troupe in 1912, the Raineys were introduced to the show's newly recruited dancer, Bessie Smith. 8 years Smith's seniors, Rainey quickly befriended the young performer, despite earlier historical accounts crediting Rainey as Smith's vocal coach. And it has been generally agreed by modern scholars that Rainey played less of a role in the shaping of Smith's singing style. Ma Rainey probably did pass some of her singing experience on Betsy, explained Chris Albertson in the liner notes of Giants of Jazz. While the instruction must have been rudimentary, though they shared an extraordinary command of the idiom, the two women delivered their messages in styles and voices that were dissimilar and manifestly personal. Though the TOBA and vaudeville circuits had gone into decline by the early 1930s, Rainey still performed, often resorting to plays and tent shows. Following the death of her mother and sister, Rainey retired from the music business in 1935 and settled in Columbus. For the next several years, she devoted her time to the ownership of two entertainment venues, the Lyric Theater and the Air Dome, as well as activities in the Friendship Baptist Church. Rainey died in Rome, Georgia, on December 22, 1939.